on my Facebook as well. Okay, so it's saying that we've gone live there. There we go. We are live. Isn't this great? This is exciting.
Yeah, my first real live video.
Is it? It's your very first time?
Yeah, I mean, I've done a couple small ones, but not like this.
Fantastic. Well, I feel privileged and honoured, so I'm glad. I'm your first then.
There you go.
There we go. Right. No. Right. I'll just kind of introduce myself, and we'll take it from there. So, for those of you who are watching, who's going to join us, I'm Zeenat Noorani, and I work in around mental health and well-being. So, mental health is a massive passion of mine. It's the key to anybody's personal or business life. With great mental health and well-being, you're more likely to be successful in what you do and in achieving your outcomes. And I think that's very, very fundamentally key in all aspects. But, just having the self-awareness about yourself is not only that, but it's also being aware of others around you. That's also important, because we are affected by other people's actions, behaviors, the language, all of the different outside factors can influence the way we think, feel, and behave. And it's how we kind of get grips to it and help it, once we know how to control and think all these things, we're able to live more abundance, more happiness. And I assume that's the idea. So today we have Mark. He's an amazing guy. Mark Browne is, he's just got a hell of a story to tell. And, he's very, very brave to come on and share his story with us. But I'm not going to say too much about him. I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about himself and why he's here and what, his reasons for coming live online. But also, he made a first step before coming here to come on live, and which is I actually met Mark at a networking event, didn't I, Mark?
Yep, sure did.
Yeah. We did, and it just struck me. His personality, his charisma, everything. There was just something that, and of course, his amazing story. So, without further ado, I am going to introduce Mark Browne. Here we go. So, tell us, a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you live, where you come from, anything like that, just to give people an insight a little bit about your history.
Okay. Well, I'm located in Maidstone, so I've lived here all my life, really. I've moved out briefly to Medway, a long way away, about 5 miles or something like that, but and came back home again. I'm married to Natalie, and I have a daughter, Georgia, and she's just finishing her university courses. I now have my own business, but I can tell you a little bit more about that later. So where to go. So
just kind of voice this, about, why you decided to come on here and, the things that you've been through.
Okay, well, obviously, it's all to do with mental health. I suffered with depression in 2017, towards the end of 2017. It's probably actually a few years before that. It gradually got worse and worse. I came on after my breakdown. I started to write a blog about it because I wanted to this feeling that I had and the experience I went through. I wanted other people to try to avoid how deep I got with it. At a certain point, you want to not get to, and I sort of got to that level. So I want to stop people doing that. And shortly after, on my recuperation, there was a young girl at my daughter's college that took her life, and she was like 18 years old. No one really knew that she was feeling the stress or anything like that. And they found her the next morning, and she'd taken her life. and I think it's ever so sad, and it just happens to all ages. It's just not just people my age or the younger people, but it can go right down to school children and up. It affects anyone. So I wanted to try and bring it to the forefront and highlight a little bit more than it already is.
So you write in your blog that you wrote, would you say that was inspired after that incident, or was it something that you've been thinking up before that because of what you went through?
It was shortly after, on my sort of the first stages of my recovery, that she did what she did, and that inspired me to write the blog and push it out, so I could try and stop that happening to other youngsters, or anyone basically. So yeah.
So in terms, because we're, what we really want to know about your story, and the things that you did that helped you change your life course to this. But it starts from with the workplace, which is something that I look at a lot around mental health, is how to better it within companies and corporate companies, because it's a massive thing that sometimes is overlooked. So do you want to kind of tell us your experience of things you were experiencing at the time, and
I mean,
what it went through and how it happened?
Yeah, I mean, mine was definitely brought on by the pressures at work. Where I used to work, we went through quite a few restructures, a couple of redundancies. Applying for your own jobs. I was operational manager for London and the South East. They gave me quite a bit more added responsibility. I had a couple of new line managers. One didn't really know what they were doing, so you're taking on that responsibility and sorting out those issues. And some of the sites I looked after were, some of the largest in the UK. And eventually, the projects that I had to undergo and take control of were quite large projects as well. So I was getting to look after the sites and run the projects, trying to keep it all together, trying to do all the what we call the P&L. It was all the the books really, for the sites as well. It all got quite a bit too much really. And then came in sort of 2016 came the other shuffle around, where I lost my job as regional manager, but they kept me on. They kept me on as a project manager. Basically left me on my own to fend for myself for 4 months, 3 or 4 months. It's a new role, and I did what I could.
So would you say you had no support within there?
I didn't really. And it was at the end of the first 3 months, there's another new line manager, my line manager. He just basically said that I hadn't been trying, I hadn't been doing this, and I hadn't been doing that. And I thought, well, you haven't actually spoken to me, so how do you know what I've been doing? And that whole year was email after email of negativity, of micromanagement, and it just gets to you. Just day after day, you're getting emails like that. It brings you down. And I think I was quite probably stretched as it was and stressed as it was, and just every day with these emails, you just got to me until I just couldn't take any more. Really, it was.
Did you not feel at any point that you could reach out to them and ask for some support or ask for some help, or was that something that you were afraid to do at the time?
Yeah, I think along with quite a lot of people, probably, you try and keep it to yourself. You don't talk about your feelings. You don't talk about what's happening. I mean, I spent many afternoon going outside into the back of the warehouse, and I just sat there and cried. Had my hands facing my hands outside, half hours at a time, and then come back in and try and start again. I put a lot of hours in. My days were I used to get to work at 6:30. I didn't leave till 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening. I was first in, last away, and it was just all too much, really. I think the only point that probably I went for an appraisal and they started bringing my marks down.
Right. Okay.
And actually, in the appraisal, I actually just broke down. It was at that point, I think, that one of the managers there said to me that he sort of recognised the signs of depression, and I should go to the doctor and get it checked out. And it was something. It's quite funny because my wife had been telling me that for the couple of months running up to me actually having this meltdown. But I tend, and I find it a lot after I talk to a lot of people, that I find that you don't actually listen to your family members, believe it or not. It's actually a third party that would highlight that to you to say, I think you take more notice of someone from the outside saying, I think you've got troubles, you know.
Yeah.
So I think I came home that weekend and I was at a very low point in my life. And I think, I think the Saturday, I don't know, my mind was whirring and I could just hear all these negative comments and everything. And on Sunday, my wife had left the house to go and do some shopping. And I just went downhill very quickly. And this is quite a strange feeling because all you can hear is all these negative comments that had been made. There was quite a bit made running up to the appraisal and after.
Yeah.
You just get numb, and I just convinced myself that was it. Everyone would be better off without me. So I was sort of planning in my head how I wanted to do what I wanted to do, and I was ready to act upon those thoughts. I just had a tunnel vision. That's what I was going to do, and probably the best point of it all was my wife walked in and stopped me doing what I was going to do, which was, yeah, it was. If she hadn't have done that at that point, you know, and then I sort of broke down and opened up and told her how I felt and what was going on in my life and in my head, and it was like a whole world was lifted off my shoulders at that point. You know, the pressures had been released. So yeah.
And at that moment, that's okay. Thank you for this. And I know, you know, this can't be easy at all. And of course, it's still going to be bringing up those feelings.
Yeah.
Take a moment, you know, because I know that what you're saying, there is probably many people out there who know of or are in exactly the same situation, similar, and having these thoughts and feelings.
Yeah. So it was at that point, I think, that obviously my wife's saying to me, you need to get some help, really, you really need help. So I went off to the doctor, who they do a little exam in the doctor and they tell you what sort of level you're at on your depression, and immediately put me on to antidepressants just to try and right me up a bit.
Yeah.
So
can I ask you that when they offered you these antidepressants, because I know there's lots of thoughts and feelings around this, was that something that you were open to and you wanted to, or were you and ahhing about those kind of things? Because I know when I had to receive help and I was and ahhing a lot about taking tablets to help me, it was like yes, no, what do I do?
Yeah. It is it's one that, you know, you do hear that, are they any good for you? Are they not good for you? But I seriously needed some help. so I just sort of really grabbed what I could. They said I didn't have to be them. I had to be on them for 6 months, a minimum. And I just hoped they would sort of stop the thoughts in my head that was going on, because I had a lot of suicidal thoughts. You know, I'd be driving around thinking, how can I crash my car? How can I do this? How can I end it? And all this sort of stuff. And it was just the build up to that day when I thought, right, this is it. I'm going. But and I needed that to stop. It was I needed help. So I thought I'd take the tablets to see if it would help. And they did. They level you. So they do. After a few days, they do kick in and they do level you.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
isn't it just that moment of help? However, you know, small it is, it's just reaching out and taking it.
Yep. And they also offered me support on the telephone conversations. So I was actually calling someone and speaking to them how I felt, and they were giving me guidance on what to do, and that they do help, because it's someone else you can talk to, and you can let, I suppose, and it's private, and you can sort of tell them all your feelings and things like that, which I found helpful, just to speak to someone else.
And just reaching out to somebody else on the phone. How prepared were you for that? Because sometimes also you're thinking, oh, this stranger doesn't know me. How are they going to help me? Although, because you get negative thoughts through that as well. Yes, you're too close to family and friends, but then also there's a total stranger. So what was your thoughts and feelings towards that?
I was very nervous about it all. And I was very, I isolated myself somewhere out of the way where no one could see me or hear me. And I think I actually got in the car and drove somewhere and parked, and then made the phone call. So it is a lot private, because I did feel so nervous about it. But I think after the 5th call, when they were giving you tasks to do it, that's when I brought it back into the house and said, these are my tasks. I think I got used to it by then. And I had to involve my wife as well on her thoughts and things. So yeah, it's quite a nervy thing. Even talking about it on my blog was quite a nervy thing. It's I can understand why people maybe don't like talking about it, but we got to start talking about it. It's something that needs to take place.
And importantly, when people hear about what you've been through and you've voiced it, and they, there is hope, there is solutions out there, isn't there?
There are. I mean, I personally went away for a couple of weeks to Tenerife. Well, my wife rushed me away to Tenerife just to get. And what it actually did was distance me from, work, distance me from home. It took me out of the situation I was in, and it gave me a chance to read some literature. I'm not a great reader, but I thought, well, I'll jump in and I'll buy a couple of books and I'll read them while I was on holiday.
Yeah.
I've got one here, one of these.
Is that the one you're telling me that was your favourite book? The Mind Power.
One. Yeah. It's a brilliant book. There's a couple of books that I took on holiday with me. This was one of them, and the other one was The Chimp Paradox.
Yes.
They're both very similar books on the subjects and the topics they talk about, but this is written just a little bit different to the Chimp Paradox, and I preferred the way this one was written. And I actually read all of this while I was on holiday.
Brilliant. What would you say you took out most from there then, from that book?
This book tells you, it gives you a bit of understanding of how your mind works, what parts of the mind work, what influences each other in your mind, and it helps you to control the negative thoughts. So it explains how to turn a negative thought maybe around to a positive thought, or how to I suppose if you've got a negative thought going, how to eradicate that thought and then become a bit more happier in yourself. But the same with anger and things like that. So instead of getting angry at someone that might cut you up in the traffic, I mean, okay. Now I look, okay, they've cut me up in traffic, they're in front of me, fine, that's down to them, let them carry on. So it's up where I was used to actually try and get out of the car and go and see them, but I've calmed right down now. So
and, making those changes, you've told me about all these different changes that you've made. How do you see yourself as a person now?
I'm not 100%, and I'm different to what I was before the breakdown. But I'm a hell of a lot better than I was. I am more positive. I happier person than I was. So and that's what I try to aim at. I actually probably more helpful than I ever was as well, because I understand that people are in need and help of these things. So, and this is what it's all about. This is what this is all about, really. He's trying to help anyone else that want
Because
to
you've learned
understand.
that yourself, isn't it? Your self-awareness, which then makes you self-aware of other people.
Yeah, it is. So I think I'm definitely changed from where I was. Even so, I don't think you'll ever get fixed. I don't think I'll ever come back to my original self. But I'm on a good path to trying to do that. I still have these trigger points. So
when you have those trigger points, what is it that you've learned to do when you have these trigger points? And I'm not. I mean, it's up to you to share. But I know you're going through a difficult time at the moment, and there's trigger points there. But overall, when you do have them, what kind of things do you do for you that might help other people?
I do. I find, maybe not to combat the trigger points, but to help you with the stress of life. I do a lot of training. So I do my weights now. I'm back into my weights. I've got a punch bag upstairs.
Yes, you told me that this afternoon.
There's a few faces on that. But,
you got my face as well.
No,
not yet.
But so I like good workout, and that helps you release the stress hormones in your blood. It actually helps you get the better ones back in the place. So it calms you down. But I do definitely have a happy thought that I would turn to if I'm down or if I'm really angry. So I go to more of a happy place and try and control it that way. So it's good to have a nice little thought. Mine is a birth of my daughter or something like that, and what she's achieved in her life. It's sort of
Absolutely. And I tell a lot of my clients that, and I try that myself as well. Think of the happy thoughts, but it's nice to be reminded of that, because it makes a massive difference, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah. It does.
So what would you say your biggest learning curve was for you so far?
It is to talk to people. It is to have a chat. If you're feeling stressed, is to tell someone about it. I do sort of let my wife know if I'm having a bit of a bad day, or like you say, I'm going through something at the moment. And probably Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I was hitting a bad days. Trying to pull myself out of that, but it's just one of those things at the moment. It's quite a difficult situation. But I've let my wife know about it, and I let my brother know about it, who I work with now, just to tread carefully around me, just in case I erupt.
Isn't it? So I think that's fantastic, though, because normally, is that something you would have told them to, like, hey, be careful, I'm not feeling great? You probably wouldn't have.
I would never have said. I would have exploded, and they're the cops, whatever was going on. But I've given them a fair warning that my emotions are up and down at the moment. And so I'm not in the best place, but I'm dealing with it, and I'm letting them know I'm dealing with it. So it's,
that's great. And you know what, that takes so much courage to do that. It's not easy.
It just helps everyone, because I could sit there as a right grump or something and swearing and blinding at everyone, and they won't know what's going on. But I'm actually telling them now, and I don't do that, by the way. I don't. I'm not a little grump in the corner.
I couldn't imagine you are.
Not always. But I do. I've given them fair warning this week. But
yourself up on your golden step as well.
Sitting up on golden step.
I love that golden step. Your photograph of that, fantastic, absolutely fantastic, inspirational. So, if you were to give some advice to anyone out there going through similar things, I know we've kind of mentioned it. What would that be? I know you said talk is like the main thing.
It is. You definitely got to talk and open up with your feelings. Don't hold all your emotions inside, because if you hold it all in, it'll eat you up, and you'll just explode, or you'll go the wrong way, as I did. So definitely do that. Try and get yourself out of the situation you're in that's causing the issues. I know it's difficult for some people to do that. I ended up resigning to pull myself out of that situation.
Mm-hmm.
And and that's why my wife took me away to Tenerife, was just to get me out of there, really, so I could chill, relax, and try and get my mind back into some sort of order. But definitely you need to either, I mean, there's always the sick time you can take off if you're bad, and that can give you a few months break. I went back too early. So make sure you don't do that. I went back after 2 months the first time, and then 6 months down the line, after the way they treated me for that year, I was back, signed off sick, and back on the tablets. So yeah, get yourself out of the situation, I think, is and do chat to people, do try and get help from other people. It's amazing when you start actually talking to people about, oh, I've been through this situation, I felt like this. The amount of people that now have opened up to me and they've said, oh, actually, I went through a similar sort of thing. But and that's what I'm just trying to do. I'm just trying to get people to actually talk about the way they felt, how they dealt with it, and help every other person around them that might be suffering as well. There's not enough. It's not spoken about enough.
No, it's just educating, isn't it? And we're not asking everyone to jump onto social media and tell their stories, but it's, you can talk to people in private, and it doesn't have to be out there, does it?
No, that's right.
As we know, there's so many telephone lines. There are doctors, there's people, there's therapists. There is a lot of help out there, and I think we're very, very lucky. It's just that we have to be brave enough
to take that step. Yeah, definitely. I don't. And I like to say, a lot of people, I felt nervous about it, and I held on to it, and I didn't say anything, and it nearly cost me my life. And I don't want people to get into that position. I want, if they're feeling depressed or anxious or anything in that way, is to open up and speak to their wife, speak to their mate, speak to a doctor, just talk to someone.
Yeah.
And don't get as low as I did, because sometimes there's not a point of return. You get down there, and if my wife hadn't walked in, then I wouldn't.
We don't know
what would have happened. I don't know. But if those people haven't got a wife that's walking in at that point, and they do that, then they're gone, and it's so sad.
Yeah. So, saying what you've said, it's just so key to people making that step to, sorry, my thoughts are just gone, woo, and I'm remembering things of what I went through as well, because, how you feel and what you said has really resonated with me. So what do you think that needs to be done in order to improve mental health in the workplace? I know we've spoken about, more people talking, but in terms of the workplace, because this is where it all started for you.
Yeah, I don't think there's enough understanding in the workplace of mental health at all. I mean, the company I work for, they did this fantastic 2-hour session for people to come and learn about depression and anxiety. But as it was, they skipped over that bit and talked about menopause, which is, what's that got to do with me? I don't know. But it was, there's more to it than just 2 hours. It takes some training for people to understand if someone's suffering, and to recognize that they are suffering, or there's something wrong there and they need to talk. So there's definitely not enough training in a workplace. And I think that there are companies out there that treat their employees really well, and they do look after them, but there are also quite a lot of companies that don't, and they treat them as a number, and they don't care what they do. They're just a number, which is a shame. And I think people need to start looking after the employees more.
And
really.
rather, I think we spoke about before, was like this sort of tick box scenario thing. This is what we have. We're doing it because, look, it's already ticked off. We had them in, but actually it's not been fully implemented.
That's right. Yeah.
Or consistent enough.
Yeah, it's definitely, they need to move away from that tick box exercise, just to show someone, oh, this is what we've done, and we can say we've done it now, but it doesn't help anyone. It's no good. They really need to start, whether they bring someone in that understands it, someone into the HR role, maybe someone understands it a little bit more. So I know sort of HR has changed a little bit over the years. So there used to be a bit more empathy, there used to be more sympathy in the HR, where it's now more about the business and turnover, and so it's gone a bit of a funny way. But it should go back to how it was. I used to have a lovely HR lady, and she was so sympathetic, and she was brilliant. And then unfortunately they put too much work on her, and she ended up leaving. And then it all went to pot after that. But yeah,
it's about finding that balance, isn't it? But they do, like you said, there are a lot of companies that are doing brilliantly with the well-being of themselves and their staff. But like you said, there is a lot of other companies that still need to really focus on this. And I think even more so now with what we're going through.
Yeah, this lockdown's terrible. It's, if you shut away on your own, I know my wife feels the stress of being at home sometimes. She's like, she's on her own all day. She likes interact. She likes the interaction. I mean, people are people. We all like to mingle. We like to talk to one another. We like to meet each other. We don't like to be chained up inside the house on your own.
And there's only so much you can do on Zoom as well that drains you. And
be all zoomed out. Yeah.
I'm just like, because I live alone and I'm constantly on my own right now, and it's just like, and I love to give people hugs and things, so it's really difficult because I've got no one to hug, just myself, but that releases a lot of energy. But what I can say is, sorry, hugging yourself.
Hug is a brilliant thing.
Hugs are
brilliant. I love it. It does. It actually makes you, and it brings on some really good endorphins in your system, and it helps you cheer up and feel better.
Absolutely. I mean, I can say I'm thankful to my, I've got family who call me regularly. I've got some really amazing friends. There's people I work with as well, like Chandra, Sarah. All these people are amazing. So talking to them really does help because they're funny. They get you. So you have to look for those things that you're grateful in, isn't it?
Yeah. Sarah's just put she loves hugs as well.
She does. Right. So I know you talk about sometimes you get the anxieties and stress, but you've got these tactics that you use to help you. So what I would like to know is there a famous quote or affirmation that inspires you or motivates you just to keep going that extra?
There's something I do, my mantra. And I would say quite regularly to myself that I'm capable, I can do it, I'm strong, and I'm positive. And you have to keep saying these things to yourself, and they do have an effect. They do eventually. You do become more positive, and you're stronger in yourself. But my favourite saying that I have seen in quite a few places is, it's a little bit like the weather. Everyone has a sunny day, but you can also have rainy days. You've just got to learn to dance in the rain.
Oh, that's lovely.
To get you through it. That's my favourite one. My friend's got it on her wall. But,
that's beautiful. I love that. Now you just reminded me of singing in the rain.
Singing in the rain, dancing in the rain. Yeah,
dancing in the rain. You just reminded me of that.
So when you're in the rain, you got to look for the rainbow. When you're in the dark, you got to look for the stars.
There you go. That's beautiful. Yeah. Absolutely beautiful. So, in terms of your blog that you've got on your website, if anybody wants to go to it, what's your blog called?
It's How Life Gets on Top of You, and it's on my website, which is, can I say it? www.smbrecordsmanagement.co.uk. I mean, out of this whole thing, the positive thing that I found, because I found after I had resigned and I'd stepped back from it all, that one of the key points for me is I couldn't actually work for anyone. It was a big trigger point for me. It just upset me to think that if I went back to work from someone and they treated me like this again, it would probably be the end of me. So I couldn't actually go and work for anyone. So I used to go and walk the dogs for my brother in the afternoon, And we were chatting one day, and he said, "Why don't you just come and get a corner of the warehouse and start working your own business in my warehouse?" So that's how SMB Records Management started. I mean, I was employed for 22 years for that company, so I'm well experienced on the records management side. So we started up the records management business. We started up a secure destruction business. So we went from 300 boxes in the first couple of months to 5,000. Now we've got 5,000 boxes in store. And it's a positive thing for me to keep pushing forward and trying to win the business. And it gives me a goal and achievements throughout my day as well. And that's what you need. You need to focus on your achievements. Yeah. So you can do the positive things.
They are.
Yeah, it's brilliant. So
just on that note, where you said you would never work for anyone, you want to be your own boss, and you're going to slowly start growing and growing. How do you see? Because I assume that you will be taking on staff eventually.
Yep.
We hope to. So how do you see yourself as the leader, or the boss, or the leader, should I say, the man in charge? How are you going to see yourself with your employees? What changes do you need?
I definitely I will listen to my employees more. I will look at things they probably need. I'll be more. It's quite hard actually, because you've got to be more of a friend or sort of that to your staff, but you've actually got to be firm with them as well. But I will never shut my door. If anyone needs to talk, the door will always be open. Mm-hmm. I don't want anyone suffering at all. If I get to that, I might get one employee. Who knows? Depends how the business goes. If I get a few, then I'll be a very fair and honest boss. It is. I wouldn't want anyone to go through what I've been through and be treated like I was treated. So yeah, it's.
And I think you've got the knowledge of it now, because you've been through it yourself. You're more aware to what's out there and to recognise those possible symptoms. Because, like you said earlier on, it's not always easy to know that people are suffering.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely, I'll be more on it than most, I would say. And as I said, if your door's open and people can come and talk to you and you encourage that, then I think you'll end up with a great team. I mean, I had a good team below me, and we used to chat all the time and talk about things, and you talk about issues they're having at home and this sort of thing. So, but my team below me were brilliant. Yeah. It's just the rest of them. That's right.
Yeah. So would you say on that in any workplace, it has to start from the top and filter down?
They have to believe what they're teaching people, and as far as I was concerned, no one did really.
Yeah. Set the right role model.
Yeah, definitely. You're a manager, you're a leader. You've got to lead from the front. Doesn't matter what stage you are. You should be showing willingness and be willing to lead and push positive vibes out. But it didn't really happen.
No.
But that's that. So, but that's in the past. Now
moving to the future.
Now the future looks bright for me. It does at the moment. We're holding our own through this lockdown, which is a really good place to be. I get some really good feedback from my customers, which is brilliant. I love advertising the feedback that I get.
Yeah.
So there's some good old reviews on Yale.com and places on Facebook and everywhere. So it's it's brilliant. It's and I love it being my own boss. It all ends with me and it starts with me. So
there you go. You're in control completely.
I am. That's good.
And that's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
If you don't want to wake up in the morning, you don't have to wake up.
No, I didn't this morning. I didn't want to wake up.
It was well deserved. Right. Well, you know what, Mark? It's been absolutely wonderful talking to you. Your story, I'm sure, will inspire many out there, and hopefully, give them the courage to be brave, to speak up to anybody they feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
And ask for help. Talk and ask for help, because there is help out there.
Yeah. If they don't get the help, But at any point they're talking to someone expecting help and they're not getting it, go to someone else. But just keep going and talking until you get the help you need. Yeah. Don't just sit back and leave it or wind yourself up about not getting anything. Talk.
Because the problem can't be fixed if you don't take action.
That's right. If no one knows about it, then how'd they know?
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's been amazing. Thank you so much for this evening.
Thank you for inviting me.
Sorry?
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, no, it's an absolute pleasure. If there's anybody out there that's got any questions for Mark or myself, do post them into the chat box. We'd be happy to answer those questions, or just contact us. Would that be all right with you, Mark, for them to contact you if they've got any questions?
Fine. I mean, many people I meet along the way that I find out they're having a few issues, and I just say to them, don't ever get that low that you can't cope with it. Give us a ring if you need someone to talk to. Yeah. Phone me.
Yeah, even if it sounds silly, right?
Yeah. Anything.
It's silly to you. Brilliant. Super duper. Well, have a lovely evening, and thank you so much once again.
Lovely. Be lovely chatting.
It has. Bye.
Speak to you later.